6:29. Well, it's 6:30, so we're going to start.
Sounds great.
Okay, so do you want to say a few words first, Will, or should I just jump in?
I'll happily explain the setup. So,
Okay.
All right. Well, for anybody that it's their first time at one of our CB8 Zoom public meetings, the thing you'll first notice is that you're muted and you're not able to unmute yourself. We will take questions and comments from the public and from our board members through using a raise hand feature. If you go to the participants menu at the bottom of your screen, you'll find a little box that'll pop up. And then when you open that box, you'll see a raise hand button. And whenever you're ready to make a comment or a question on an item, you'll push the little raise hand button. You'll go up to the top of the list. Jane and David will see you and they'll call on you in turn. And that's really all there is to say. Other than if you have any questions, you can always chat through the chat box if you're having problems with the software.
Thank you, Will. With that, we're going to start. Good evening. This is the November meeting of the Landmarks Committee of Community Board number 8. We have one agenda item, an application for a C of A. We will hear from the applicant. We'll allow the public to speak, and then we'll go into executive session with the board, just the board. After we formulate a resolution on our one agenda item, we will go into executive session and discuss 2 new business items, or really they're actually old business items. So with that, we're going to start. The only application is 107 East 64th Street. Is Pleskow Architects here? I see Tony Pleskow. Pleskow, am I pronouncing it correctly? And Mary Dietrichs, you're on the same application?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
And
This is a row house on East 64th Street. The application is to construct a rooftop stair and elevator bulkhead. I guess a bulkhead for the stair as well. Is that correct? Have we got it correctly?
That's correct, yeah.
Great. Okay, so we'll go to the applicant. Are you both going to speak?
Yes, I'm speaking and then Tony.
Okay, so perhaps we could get the shared screen going so we can see the drawings.
Can you see that?
Yeah, we can see it.
Are you able
Thank
to see that? Great.
Okay. This is, as we spoke about, an application for a new elevator and stair bulkheads to bring access to the roof. Next, Tony. Oh, is it Tony that's operating?
Yeah, I'm doing it.
Yep.
Yep.
It's described as a no-style building by Landmarks. It's the white row house in the center. Next. It was built in 1881 to 1882, designed by W.P. and A.M. Parsons. It was altered in 1924 by Delano and Aldrich. It's the third one in from the corner. Next.
This one here.
Yeah, thank you. And it was altered again by George B. Post and Sons, and got stripped, and the stoop had already been removed. And then it was altered again in the 70s. At minimum, they changed windows. Tony Plesko Architects is going to describe the proposal.
There you
Thank
go.
you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Mary. So the proposal, basically what we're proposing is an extension of an existing stair bulkhead and elevator bulkhead up to the roof with a connecting vestibule. And this is a view of, from the south, the street elevation of both the existing facade and what's proposed up on the roof. And this is set back quite a ways from the roof.
How many feet is the setback?
I would say, it's funny, I don't know exactly what that number is. It's probably 35 feet or so. I'll show a rendering that gives you a sense of where it is.
I know, we love detail.
Okay,
Okay, so it's set back approximately 35 feet from the front elevation,
right.
right?
I would say so, yes. I'll verify that
Okay.
while we're on this one.
Yes.
This is an image. This is an image. Basically, it's an extension of that, vertically of the existing bulkhead inside the building, the existing stairwell and the existing elevator shaft. So it's set quite a bit back. Again, I'll get you that. We'll work on that number.
Okay.
This is a view from the courtyard side. This is the north side of the building, showing the extension. This is an enlargement of that. This is the side facing south, which is the street elevation, and the side facing the courtyard. Just for information, there's a ladder on either side for fire department access up and over to each side.
What is the height? Oh, okay. Could
Yeah,
you
so
give us
this-
the dimensions of,
Yeah, it'll be in the section.
okay,
So this is a view, an aerial view. This is the stairwell extending up. Again, it literally sits on top of the existing stairwell, and then the bulkhead for the elevator, and then a vestibule that connects the two.
Right now, at this moment, we're showing what we would like to do with the bottom, which can't actually be seen from the street in any event, just the top. But at the DIA, we are trying to get a reconsideration from the Department of Buildings, which wants a wall in between the two bulkheads, but it will not really make a very big difference. It won't make any difference in how you see it from the street, and won't make that much of a difference in the elevation that you're looking at. And this also shows remember the extended chimneys in the back.
Right.
is that the rear elevation or the front elevation? That looks like,
This is the rear.
and how many feet is that set back? That's
And
the
this is-
front.
This is the front. I'll double check on our plans. I don't have it immediately in front of me, that distance, but let me check and get back to you, Jane, on that.
And while you're checking, we also want to know the height, the square feet, especially for the vestibule, the connecting vestibule.
That's 120 square feet,
The connecting vestibule is 120 square feet?
correct.
Okay. And you're going to get me the height.
Yeah, I'll give that to you. It's in the drawings themselves, but I'll give you that number. I'll articulate that number.
Thank you.
Of course. This is a section through, a cross section through the building, from the cellar all the way up in through the vestibule and the extension of both the stair and the elevator bulkhead. And then this is the existing, and this is the proposed. This is a longitudinal section. showing the existing and the proposed. And this is the stair up into the vestibule here. And you can see it's more or less sitting right in the middle there, and we're set back from both the front. The front setback, I'm sorry, it's 29 feet 2 inches, and it's 16 feet 2 inches from the rear.
It's 29 feet, how many inches at the front?
29 feet 2.
Uh-huh. And
And
rear?
it is 16 feet 2 at the rear.
Okay.
And the height is 11 feet.
And as long as you're giving me the height, how about the width? Well, I guess it's the width of the house.
Right, which is the standard lot.
The-
So we're about,
It will be in the plan.
25
Alright.
feet?
yeah, well, you know what, let me get to our plan.
Okay.
So we are just about, yeah, I'm sorry. We are, let's see, what do we got here? 5 plus 12, 17. It's a 20-foot lot.
Okay. Okay. Just for my own clarification, the vestibule, is that livable space, or what's the purpose of the vestibule?
It's so that when you, the vestibule is basically, it's currently compartmentalized, but it's really just a connection between these two bulkheads.
Uh-huh.
And currently, it's also weather protection as well, so that it's not, the elevator and the stairwell are not exposed immediately to weather. And you're, under the code, you're allowed to do 120 square feet
Okay.
without it being considered a floor.
Oh,
So,
okay.
you know, I mean, if you can imagine, it's not a particularly large space, but you can, you know, rather than going immediately out into weather, in either of these two conditions, it's connected by a small enclosed space.
And there are windows on it?
There's windows at the rear, and currently, and as Mary had mentioned, the current requirement for the currently we're working with DOB on this. They wanted a wall in between the two.
Right.
And we would like to get that removed so that we could increase the amount of glass we have at the front and the back. But the goal is to put as much glazing here as possible, ultimately.
Okay. Is that sort of the extent? What materials are you using?
We're using a copper shingle on that, which would initially patina as a brown, you know, into a brown color, and then clearly over the course of much longer period would oxidize and become a greenish color.
Right.
But we're looking to differentiate it from the existing building, which I think is in the spirit of these additions, but make it very subtle and sort of allow it to kind of go away and blend into the kind of all of the noise of what happens on rooftops.
So the copper shingle will be basically for the extension between, or will the chimney
really-
extension and the whole thing will be in copper?
Well, it's just, yeah, there's whatever's not glazed. Jane
Uh-huh.
would be, you know, anything here. And we can show you back. I mean, I think the renderings might show you, maybe gives you a better indication. So like the bulkhead surface for the elevator, whatever surfaces we have here, you know, that surface here, this surface here. We're trying to get daylight into that stairwell. So this would be glass.
So whatever isn't glass is going to be basically a copper shingle.
Yeah, I mean, and the doors, we're envisioning steel sash doors. So a thin profile, again, in keeping with, you know, some of the older homes in the area, a very narrow style.
The extended chimney will be brick.
Okay.
And there's a security fence on the sides.
Yeah, along here, which is, we want to do in a perforated copper material. So again, continuing with the same language, same material language here, this is really just to keep people from walking across the various roofs.
Okay. Is that sort of the extent of your presentation?
No, we're going to run through the views because this is
Oh,
visible.
sorry.
So we'll show you the views.
Yeah, do you want to take over, Mary?
Yeah.
I mean, just tell me when to advance, but I think.
Right. We did a mock-up, quite a nice one. And keep going, Tony. Here's more mock-up. Then you can see it. Go to the next one. You can see, oh yeah, you can see it from down 64th, you know, to the west,
Right here.
kind of. So that's that's what you would see, and then we did a close-up of kind of roughly where.
Can we get the pointer? Oh, I see it behind the tree branch.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
in the regular view, you really don't
up
see
in
it at all.
here.
So how many feet are you seeing in that?
You know, you have to guess that, but I would think it's more. It's certainly more than you could do at staff level. It's maybe, Tony, we say 3 feet, 2,
I mean, I'd be guessing it's like, you know, 4 feet perhaps.
4. Mhm.
So
Oh, this might be
approximately
same.
4 feet is visible going down 64th Street going west.
Right,
Okay.
looking from the west. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Looking
Okay.
Okay.
All right. The next is a rendering of this same view. And there it is. Okay. Next view. This is a little closer on 64th. And that's
So tell me, Mary, I know I'm interrupting, but the house in front of what we're seeing, who was the architect for that house?
I don't know. That's yeah, that building. Yeah, sorry to say I don't know.
And
It's
you're talking
very
about this building here?
It's a wonderful building.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, go on.
All right, next one. That's the rendering. That one thing to the left is the extended chimney. Okay, next view. This is the main view down Park, about a block and a half.
Right area.
A block. And you can see the.
You mean Park from like 62nd Street?
63rd.
Probably 63rd.
Yeah.
It-
Okay.
Jane, if you see number 3,
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
that's
it.
1 block over
Okay.
at that corner.
This is the chimney once again, and the bulkheads.
So that's, you can see that 4 feet from that view line as well.
Oh, I would say that's maybe more.
Oh, how much is
No,
it?
actually, I don't think so.
You
I don't think it's
not?
any more than that.
Yeah. Okay.
It's really you're only catching a bit of the bulkhead, and you're catching the thickness of this roof here, and this is no more than 2 feet. So this is probably about 3 foot here, and then maybe 3.5 to 4 here of the elevator bulkhead.
So it's 3 to 4 feet. Okay.
Yeah.
Looking back from 63rd Street along Park.
Right.
Okay.
Next.
Yes, northwest corner.
Mm.
And that's the
This is-
rendering of it.
Okay.
Next is down Park a little bit more. Oh, I'm sorry. Before that, last year, an addition was approved at Landmarks for the building next door. That's 105, where ours is 107. And that addition wasn't built, and the house is for sale now. But if that addition were built, you wouldn't see very much of our bulkheads.
Actually, you wouldn't see it. It obscures virtually all of it.
Mm.
That's it right there. That's the addition, and then this is it ghosted over what we proposed. So you could pretty much, that addition would obscure the entire thing that we're doing.
But it's not there.
No,
Not
it
there
is.
at the moment,
That's
but
why
it
we're here.
gives you a little bit of a history with the
Right.
neighbor. It's
No, I
something that was
appreciate it.
recently approved.
Thank you.
Next, Tony.
And it could be that it will be built.
This is the,
I mean,
this is
Did
for,
CB8 approve that? Does anybody remember?
did
I
what?
don't remember it at all.
I
It
don't
might have been-
remember it.
It was approved at the landmarks hearing at the end of March, so it would have come to you before March. It would have had to.
Things have a way of not always coming to us.
And you may not have approved it. I don't really know.
What was the address of that property? I'll look it up. while you're talking.
105 East 64th. This is once again what you see. And remember, you're not seeing the close-ups. We just, when we give you the other photo, you really can't see anything. But if you
Yeah,
had
so
really
it's-
good eyes, you could.
that little orange
Mm,
thing there.
yeah. And then it goes away. That's sort of the end of that view. But the railing is also visible. So this next one, Tony. Oh, I'm sorry. This is the rendering.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, first we have the mock-up followed by a rendering.
And this is that same view from the 63rd looking
This
back
is-
along the park.
Yep.
So no, this this is between 63rd and 62nd, midway through the block on the western side of the sidewalk. You see where my cursor is right there by number 4? Number 4?
Yeah, I
And
see
if you
it.
can see that, that's the location. So you have a location.
But no
map.
question, anybody strolling down there can see maybe from 3 to 4 feet of the extension,
Yeah, you can see it.
the roof. Okay, I just want to make sure we all
Yeah.
know that.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, this sort of is the view 4, not the close-up, but view 4 is really representative of what you would see.
And as you can see, the roofs are pretty busy, and there's a lot of stuff on them. And this really blends in with the rest of all of the stuff that's on these roofs, in the roofscapes. Okay.
And what we're seeing in that rendering in view 4 close-up is the brick cladding. Is that correct in the rendering?
Yeah, that's right.
That's the extended chimney.
One side, it looks like there are 2 parts, but
Yeah,
okay.
the
Oh,
bulkhead
this
and
is the bulkhead for the elevator, and that's the chimney. So that we're extending the chimney. And then we've got this. So this is copper and this is brick.
So just to clarify, the extended bulkhead for the elevator is going to be clad in brick, right?
No,
No, that's in copper.
Okay, gotcha. Okay,
yeah.
and then the extended stairwell is going to be clad in brick.
no. And I'm sorry, but I that's my fault. I could see I wasn't clear at all on that. Because the elevator bulkhead and the stair bulkheads are near the back chimneys, the chimneys themselves have to be raised 3 feet. Is it 3,
Oh.
2 or 3 feet above?
Yeah, 3 feet.
3 feet above the level of the bulkhead. So that what you're seeing primarily in this view on the left is the chimney that has to be extended.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay.
All right, next, Tony. From this view, which is Park Avenue, close to 64th, what you're seeing are the new security railings on the side.
Yeah, this and this.
Okay.
And next view is from Park and 65th. And there you're seeing a little bit of the extended chimney it's the rear chimney. Tony.
So yeah, so Jane, you were asking about the copper material.
Uh-huh.
This is we found that, a house that's got the material on it. It's a shingle type product, and it weathers to this brown color, which is quite quickly, within a few months. So this will be the tone of the material that's being used to clad the primary volumes, including the bulkhead enclosures for the stair and the elevator.
Okay, very good. I love that. Clad primary volumes. Okay. Okay.
And then here's just another view of it shown a little bit more closely.
Okay. Okay.
And
And
that's it.
then that's it. I mean, this is sort of a final view of that from here.
Well,
And
thank
then
you.
there's an appendix after that with some plans and things, but this is really the heart of it.
Well, thank you very much. And I'm assuming you're here because it is so visible from the public way. Is there anyone from the public who wants to comment? Will?
I'll just remind everybody, open the participants box, use the raise hand feature if you would like to raise a comment. And if you're on the phone, it is *9.
Will, and we also got a letter from a neighbor who's opposed to this, Deandra Douglas. Did you see that, David? Halpern?
What did I see?
There was a letter that we got sent that was addressed to Alita, from
I
a
didn't
neighbor.
see the letter.
Oh, okay. Anyway, so it was a letter in opposition, just so everybody knows, from Deandra Douglas, who's a neighbor.
I do not see any
No.
hands up.
Okay, so we'll go to the committee and we can take the committee in alphabetical order, I guess, Will.
Sounds good.
Jane, can you give us the gist of the letter or?
Well, it was just a very simple one-line letter. I mean, Deandra Douglas, is a celebrity. But in any case, it basically said that I am opposed to the rooftop addition. It was a really very simple one-line
Okay,
letter, and it was addressed to Alita.
Yes, that's the extent of the letter. So if you're ready to go through the committee members, it
Yes,
is
thank you.
Elizabeth Ashby up first. Elizabeth.
Yeah, as long as the letter didn't provide us any reason, because I'd always like to hear from the community, and if they're right near there, that sometimes they've seen something that we wouldn't have known about otherwise. But if there's nothing there, and this seems to be, except for the pigeons, pretty invisible. And so I think I could live with this because it's so far back and so hard to see as far as I can tell.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Next is Gail Barron.
Yeah, I have a question. What is the actual height of the extension from
12
the
feet.
existing?
12 feet,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
12 feet from the ground plane to the top of the roof. So from here, Gail, to the top of this is 12 feet.
Okay, thank you. The other question I just had out of curiosity, why is DOB pushing for a wall between the vestibules?
It's really they're viewing it as a fire separation.
I was wondering if it was safety.
Yeah,
And you
that's
don't
right. I
think
mean,
that's an
it's
issue?
simply, yeah, I mean, that's their current view. Working with the examiner that we have currently assigned to the project. We have a slightly different perspective on it, but it's really based on a fire life safety issue.
Okay, thank you. No other questions.
You're welcome.
Next is Michelle Birnbaum.
Thank you. Did I hear you say that this extension is on top of another extension? The bulkhead, the original bulkhead came out?
No. What we are doing, we are extending the bulkhead that's currently, so there's basically what you would refer to the interior stairs, a bulkhead. And there is no bulkhead at the moment, like that actually, there's no bulkhead at the moment that extends beyond the roof. The roof is flat.
Okay, so
and
whatever was interior came up flat to the roof, and this is just going to be above it.
Correct.
What's the total height of the building, including this new, what'd you say, 12 feet?
Yeah, let me go back to that. 72.2 to the top of the elevator, and 71 foot 2 to the top of the roof of the vestibule, and
Okay.
the elevator shaft is 1 foot higher.
So it's under what, like 75 feet, which would be permissible on this lot. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, say that again.
It's under the 75 feet that would be permissible on this lot?
It's under 75 feet.
Yeah, okay. Also, what is the height of the security fence and the materials?
The height of the security fence is simply, it's 40, we're doing something, it's 42 inches.
Is that the height requirement, the safety requirement?
That is, even though it's a guardrail, we're using the guardrail height.
Right. Right.
And we just, which would be, even though there isn't an issue with your, falling to some elevation below where you might get harmed. 42 inches is the standard guardrail height.
So that's what you're using.
So
And
that's what we're using, yeah.
Is that in the back of the house as well?
Yes, but that's existing already. So we have something here at the back
Oh,
that
okay.
people don't fall off the roof.
Right.
And then basically what we're talking about on either side is something just to keep people from walking onto the roof. Because basically when you get on the, if people access their roofs, they can walk from one roof to the other.
Is the height of the side railings also 42?
That's what I thought we were speaking about, yeah.
No, I was talking about the front.
Oh, the front railing is existing. That's not being changed.
Oh,
And
okay.
that meets the requirement of the code, which is 42.
Okay.
And to either side on the party wall, separating, one row
Right.
house from the other,
Right.
it's also 42. So I'm sorry, I thought you were talking.
Yeah, no, that's okay. So you have basically four fences, two sides, one front and one in the back.
Correct.
What's the material and the color?
The ones on the side are we're looking at a perforated copper that would go dark brown. And then the front and back are the front's existing, it's painted black. And the rear, if it were to be, the intention is to use the existing railing, provided it's structurally secure, and it would also be painted black.
Okay, but so the sides are perforated copper and the front and the back? What's the material?
The front and the back, well, the front's existing, it's wrought iron.
Okay. And
The back is probably, it's existing as well, it's probably wrought iron. However, if we feel like we have to, because of, of its soundness, if we were to change it, we would change it to look exactly the same as it is now. But it would be probably black painted steel.
It wouldn't be wrought iron.
I don't know. I don't believe it would be. I mean, it would look identical.
Did you reach out to any of the neighbors, have any personal notice or conversations with any of them?
There's been communication with the neighbors to either side.
And this lady who wrote, you don't know that she was one of those neighbors?
Well, I could, Michelle, I
I
just
don't
found
know
the
her.
le- I'm just going to
Don't
read
know
the
her.
letter.
Okay, thank you.
Michelle, do you want me to read the letter?
No, Will posted it, so we've read it.
Oh, thank you.
Michelle, were you done?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. So up next will be Alita.
Thank you. My apologies for not sending around that very brief email in which she expressed her opposition. What is going to be on the roof of the addition? It looks like you're creating a green roof, some plants up there.
Well, that was, yeah, so we were looking at the, we were interested in the possibility of growing or having a small garden up there and possibly doing a green roof on top of that portion of it.
So are they
It'd be
related?
sort of a low weight kind of a sedum type product or green roof type product we'd like to do that.
So are there safety related issues? Because it looks like it's just sheer flat surface on the top. How would someone be up there taking care of the garden and accessing all of that? Do you need to have more safety rails, making it even bigger?
I don't think so. I mean, if we did, we wouldn't do it. If we had to make it larger, it would kind of be counterproductive to, I mean, if you see a lot of green roofs, the majority of those green roofs, it's not meant to be an occupied roof. So it's really more of a decorative thing. So if you're there for servicing, if you need to service it, you can service it from a ladder. You can certainly get up to this on a ladder that we would be providing. But if it required additional structures simply to have the green roof, it would kind of defeat the purpose of it. And so we wouldn't do it.
Yeah, we're not even allowed a window box. So I know nothing about green roofs. Okay, and to me it seems visible from the street, but I don't have any other questions, and I'm eagerly listening to my colleagues. So thank you.
All right. I don't believe, oh, Sarah Chu has joined us. I don't know when she joined, so I'll go to her.
Hi, I just joined a few minutes ago, and so I'm still catching up on the presentation, but I don't think I'll vote because I've missed so much of the conversation.
Thank you, Sarah. The next would be Anthony.
Okay. I think basically this is fine. The green roof, the problem of people falling off, workmen falling off the green roof can be solved with tie downs and things like that. Little clips at the edges that you can tie yourself to. But I don't have any particular problem with this, especially since we approved a similar, I can't confess to remembering exactly what it looked like, a similar addition, rooftop addition to the building next door, one lot closer, in fact, to Park Avenue. So I don't have any particular problem with this myself.
Thank you, Anthony. Next would be May.
Hi, just a question for the applicant. You mentioned earlier that you had a differing opinion from the Department of Building as it relates to a safety issue. I'd like for you to expand on that. What is the DOB's position? What is your position? And why do you feel like yours is the right position?
So currently, the position of DOB is that for they would like to see a separate, they'd like the vestibules to be separate from one another. So so if you come up the elevator, you would go into a vestibule that would disconnect you from the stair and vice versa. And they have a very narrow viewpoint on that at this point. And that's, again, this is an opinion. It's not it's an opinion of the supervisor or the plan checker that we're currently working with. It may not be an opinion of a supervisor that person happens to work under. But to be clear, I'm the architect for this project, and basically the buck stops with me. I stamp all of the drawings, and my primary concern is the life safety of all the people, of my client and anyone else inside this building. I'm of the position that 120 square foot space is, it's a very, very small room, and it would be nice if we could somehow just connect those two and make it into one. The space will be fully sprinklered. It actually, there's adequate exiting out of that, and it just makes it, it's just a better design. So, it's less confining as well. So we feel it's a better proposal ultimately, and again, that's the conversation we're currently having. It's a difference in opinion.
Just to follow up
and
for the sake of my clarity, and thank you for explaining that, Tony. So the DOB's position is based on what? When you said it's is it a true safety concern on their end? And if so, can you expand on that? And I understand that it is the opinion of the person you are working with, and that may differ from their supervisors.
Right. So again, I have not personally spoken to this plan checker about this particular issue. These are notes that we're getting back from, the expediters of consultants that we have that are working with that person. And we think we don't believe that you need to build a wall and chop a space into 10 by 6, that suddenly makes it a safer space to inhabit versus something that might be 10 by 12. It simply degrades the quality of the actual experience, right? So this is we have different perspectives, and we have a different reading of the code. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I don't think myself and the current plan checker have a difference in opinion. We're trying to work through it.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
So I do not believe Harrison has joined. If he has, raise your hand, but that would make Marco next.
Thank you. I just want to follow up what you just said. Are you aware that you are obligated to have a meeting with the planning purview of this conversation, of this meeting, okay? But just to let you know, you are obligated to meet them. So the expediter cannot be there. You must be there and the expediter, but not the expediter alone. That is the new rules. But that is not our role right here. I just wanted to clarify to you. You don't need to explain anything more about that. The proposal, I think, is reasonable. By the way, the corner building, I remember very well. Yes, it may cover your project. And I think, yes, we approved that project. I think it was a reasonable project. And in this case, I found that, yes, your setbacks in the front and the rear is fine. And the only thing that you're doing is basically is the functionality of the space, the inside of the space. You have the bulkhead for the elevator and for the staircase, which basically you need it. So it's nothing wrong. And yes, you try to make attractive, which is, I found that there is something over there that I think I will support this application. Thank you.
Yeah, hi. This is Marco, right? Is that correct?
Okay.
Yeah, Marco, I have in fact had, this is our COVID, there's a certain COVID protocol. We have in fact had, and I've been on the phone with the plan examiner. But the particular issue related to the wall was a response that she gave to an expediter without my being present.
No, no. The expedite, this process started probably like 4 or 6 months ago. So I have been dealing myself too. So
No,
now
yeah.
everything is in
I think,
but I don't need to discuss this one.
yeah, we
I
can
agree with
move,
that part.
Okay.
That is outside of our scope of work. Just only I'm notified that way. But the bottom line right here is I will support your application. Thank you.
Okay,
thank you.
So now we'll move on to our public members, Christina Davis and Kim Selway, and then we have 3 board members who are also here that we'll go to after that.
Okay.
So starting with Christina, *6 to unmute.
I think all the questions have been answered, and I can support this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. And then I saw Kim Selway. Kim.
Hi, good evening. I agree with what Christina just said. All of my questions have been addressed and I can support this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. I saw Sharon Pope Marshall was here. Not seeing her. We'll move to Russell Squire and then to Sherry Weiner if she is still here.
I have no comments beyond what others have said.
Thanks, Russell. Is Sherry still here? I'm not seeing her. Oh, there you are. You have your hand up. There you go.
Can you point out where the vestibules are that you're talking about, that the differences between your opinion and the DOB? I'm having trouble visualizing where.
Sure.
Sure.
Let me run up to a plan here. Hold on. It's hard. It really doesn't have any effect on the. It has a very limited effect in the rendering. It's really it's a plan issue. Yeah. So basically, there's a wall. This is the plan. So these are the vestibules.
Oh, and they want a wall between. They want a wall between.
Yeah, we'd like to take the wall out so that it's one room, which as it is, it's not that big. It's only 10 by 12. This would make it even tighter. So we're simply asking them if we can remove the wall.
Yeah, that's very helpful, seeing the visual. I just couldn't.
Right.
Okay, great.
Right.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
So Jane and David, you also have hands up from Elizabeth and Michelle if you want to go back to them before the 2 of you
Sure,
speak.
we might as well. Sure.
Okay. Elizabeth, you had your hand up first.
Yeah, this is very quick, but earlier on in the questions and so on, it was said that the height limit is 75 feet. I believe this is in an LH1A area where the height limit would be 60 feet. I don't think it's going to affect anything, but I just thought I would bring that up.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Will
Michelle also had her hand up.
Okay.
And then that's it.
Yes, thanks, Elizabeth. That helps. My recollection is you said that one of the reasons you want to remove the wall or you don't want to build the wall in the vestibule is so that you can have more glazing. In other words, you're going to have, a lot of glass that would break it up. And this, without it, you'd have a bigger expanse of glass. So I also wondered in that case, what kind of lighting are you doing in there? Because if you do get that wall removed, you will have 12 feet of glazing. Is that correct?
No, it's not the, you have to remember that we've got the thickness of a roof structure and so it's not 12 foot of glass. It's probably 9 to 10, of which you might see a foot from the street.
Oh, yeah.
Very little of that glass, if anything, would be seen. You're pretty much seeing the underside of a little roof overhang from
And what-
those viewpoints.
So what kind of lighting would be in there? Would it be on all the time?
Oh, no. No, I mean, at a minimum, we would have an occupancy sensor in there. So, it would most of the time it probably would be off. I mean, it would only be if someone were to go up there, they'd turn the lights on, and then presumably we would attach an occupancy sensor to that so that if there's no movement inside that space, it would automatically shut off.
Okay, so you're not looking for that to be a decoratively lit space in some way?
No.
Okay. And I just want to clarify something about the roof on the top of this structure. It's inaccessible at the moment. You would have to have a portable ladder that you would hold up and take down in order to plant that and to treat it. Is that correct?
No, well, we actually have a ladder that the fire department and DOB has required us to attach to the side of the elevator bulkhead on both sides for fire department access. And actually, you're required to have a path of travel for the fire department, and it's noted here in this hatch section. Along this, so there's a ladder here that brings you up, and then a ladder on the other side that brings you down to the other side, and that's a requirement so that the fire department get to both ends of the building.
Yeah, I saw that actually in one of the earlier renderings, but I thought it was laying horizontally. In other words, to be placed when needed. But you're saying it's vertical all the time, and that's your access.
Yeah, there are rungs, so there'd be, kind of architecturally, it's going to be a nice piece that we're going to make sort of blend into the copper, right? And so that's a point of access for someone who might want to go up to the, if there's a gardener. I mean, this is very low maintenance planting, frankly. And if someone were to go up there, we would have, tie downs. We've done it before on roofs where we have OSHA required.
Don't you need
tie
drainage?
downs that have a hook. Pardon?
Don't you need drainage? Does something have to come down the side of the structure for drainage from plantings?
Well, the drainage is internal, and the drainage would be internal. Yes, of course you have to drain it, but you have to drain the roofs anyway, right? So, and we're handling that through the existing roof drain system that happens at the back of the building at the courtyard. So the roof is currently drained by a gutter at the rear of the roof at the courtyard side and comes down roof gutter. So there's nothing that happens on the front of the building. It all happens at the back. And so basically any water that falls on this green roof or the roof itself will be handled similarly to how it's being handled now.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Will, it sounds to me like it's a move to approve. So I think, is anybody ready to
Jane,
introduce? Oh, I'm sorry, David, please speak. I'm sorry.
I don't doubt that it's a move to approve, but I'm not comfortable with it. I don't remember what we did on 105. I'm not comfortable with the shape. To me, it sort of looks like an oddball element that's placed on that roof unnecessarily. I would feel very comfortable if just the elevator came up and just the stairs came up, and that you then had incidental elements on the roof, just like you have on some other roofs. But I just don't feel comfortable with the connection, which I feel is totally unnecessary. You could have zero clearance doors if you were concerned about weatherproofing on the elevator, and weatherproofing on the stair is not an issue at all. So if I were doing it, I would want to see just the incidental elements that bring you up to the roof. And I think that the bulk that's been added is unnecessary bulk, and I'm not in favor of putting unnecessary bulk on roofs. So I cannot support it.
Thank you, David. Does anybody want to introduce a resolution? Committee members?
Russell has his hand up.
Russell,
Motion to approve.
is there a second?
Second.
Okay, I'm time to call the roll.
Okay, I'm just going to mute everybody and take the screen and put up our all right, everybody can see the vote sheet now. Yes?
Yes, we can see it. Thank you, Will.
Oh, sorry. And then I think I have everybody unmuted. Christina was the last one. And so I'm just going to go through the roll. This was an approval. And we'll start with Elizabeth Ashby.
Yes.
Thank you. Gail Barron.
Yes.
Thank you. Michelle Birnbaum.
Yes.
Thank you. Alita Camp.
No, David articulated what my level of discomfort was. Thank you, David.
Sarah Chu.
Not voting, please.
Just skip.
Yes.
All right.
Thanks.
Anthony.
Yes.
Thank you. David.
No.
Thank you. May.
No.
Thank you. Jane.
Yes.
Thank you. Harrison's not here. Marco.
Yes.
Thank you. Christina.
Yes.
Thank you. Kim.
Yes.
Thank you. Russell.
Yes.
Thank you. And Sherry.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Will. Okay, so that was thank you to the applicant for coming. We're going to move along to our two other items to discuss. The first is the master plan initiative. Then Elizabeth, do you want to start that discussion?
Okay. Well, what I think that we really have to discuss is the objection to it. But in case people haven't caught up, Gail Barron and Michelle Birnbaum are going to lead this committee and provide information to the community, but after we end Zoom meetings, because I think they quite rightly decided that Zoom meetings weren't the way to do this. I don't think we've had really any response from Landmarks. We did, I hope all committee members got a copy of the letter that Civitas sent, that, which was not supporting our proposal. And I hope that the commission is smart enough to know that it is nothing but full of errors. I think we have enough problems trying to make sure that appropriateness is the standard around here, that either we should write to Civitas and straighten them out and copy Landmarks, or write to Landmarks and point out the errors. But I'll just very quickly go through some of the errors. They talk about this being within the Fifth Avenue Historic District. There is no Fifth Avenue Historic Districts. They talk about requiring original materials. It's good stuff. But on an apartment building over 6 stories, you do not have to use the original materials on windows. They talk about high cost and energy efficiency. There are so many. I think when we do this letter, I hope I'll work with Anthony and Marco, because they've been most helpful, but how to word this. But the modern replacement windows don't, in order to get energy efficiency, you don't have to use 1/1s or single pane, or you can get an appropriate design that is energy efficient. It doesn't add to the cost, and other things. The burden isn't there because of an appropriate window master plan. A window master plan doesn't require anybody to do anything. Your building can require them to do it in environmental laws, but the master plan has nothing to do with it. And it doesn't require any extra review by landmarks, because any replacement window in a historic district or a landmark building goes to landmarks. So the one thing that makes it easier, if you have a master plan, it's a very simple step. So I don't know how people would like to deal with this, but I don't want an effort and a position that we took after a great deal of thought. I don't know whether how other people feel. Do you think it's good to write to Civitas and copy landmarks, or vice versa? So I leave that, and any other suggestions, because I sent the letter to everybody, and everybody had our letter, what your positions would be on this one, and how you feel about who gets what letter.
I don't know, Elizabeth. Nobody is volunteering anything. I think,
There are two hands up right now.
okay.
Michelle and then Alita. And
Okay.
I just want to let you guys know that you're basically only at board members left here. So I've left several of you unmuted, but you're also all able to unmute yourselves now. So use the hand raise feature still, but like if you guys want to, you can jump in. Michelle.
Okay, so I was just unmuted. Before we address that, Elizabeth, can we just get a summary or some sense of the meeting that you had with Sarah Carroll? I don't think we've ever, we have never been briefed on that. And I would just like to know the nature and the tone of that, how long it was. Can somebody brief us on that?
Well, I think Alita can, Michelle. It's on the agenda for tonight. It's the second item after the window initiative. But perhaps I don't know, Alita could take the floor and discuss it.
Why don't we finish talking about the window master plans, and then we could go to the meeting with landmarks, because they don't really overlap.
Oh,
Well,
I guess Michelle thought they did.
Can I just say then, if that's the case, it was Civitas who addressed the letter to us with a CC to landmarks?
No, Civitas
They addressed it to
wrote
landmarks?
to landmark. We CC'd everybody on our letter.
Right.
Uncle Tom Cobley and all.
Okay.
Civitas CC'd nobody. I just was sent by a Civitas board member a copy of the letter.
Okay, so they just
the
wrote it to
community board
landmarks.
was not copied, and had I not been copied, we would not know of its existence.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'd like to hear what everybody else has to say, but if the letter was addressed to landmarks, I think we should address it back to landmarks and CC Civitas.
Okay.
I agree, Michelle.
I do as well.
I'm happy with that.
I
Are
agree
you
with
gonna,
that.
Elizabeth,
I
are you going to
agree.
draft the letter?
Yeah, I'll want help from Anthony and Marco, and I can't volunteer them, but I'm sure that they'll help. So
Great, okay.
They just volunteered themselves.
Yes.
Just saw Anthony shaking his head, yes. Marco is hiding behind an invisible screen.
So Elizabeth, is there further discussion? I don't know. You're going to draft a letter to Landmarks. And you're going to have input from fellow Landmarks committee members. And is there any further discussion on this item, or should we move along to Alita and the Zoom meeting?
Well, let's move to Alita because we also want to see what type of response we get from Landmarks after they receive the letter.
Absolutely.
So back over the summer, in response to numerous letters that the board sent to the Landmarks Preservation Commission, Will and I had received an invitation to a meeting with Sarah Carroll to talk about some of it. But it made sense to bring some very knowledgeable people from this committee. So Jane and David and Elizabeth joined us in the meeting. A lot of what we talked about was 210 East 62nd Street, because as you remember, it was that building that we took up here in the Landmarks Committee and also at full board with a resolution to revoke, asking the commission to revoke the permits for and approvals for the work on 210 East 62nd Street because of bad behavior and changes in mind and just various things. So that was a big focus of the meeting. The lawyers from the Landmarks Preservation Commission, the lawyers from the Landmarks Preservation Commission are very involved in that particular project, and it is still not set for hearing, I understand. Is that correct, Will? But that was but that was, even without discussing that, that was a large focus of the meeting. We talked for about, I think, over an hour. I raised the staff approvals because it's not just an issue with this board, but with other boards as well, that too many items are going to staff level approvals, and they said it is no more than they've ever had before, that 95%, I think, what did they say? Well, 95% maybe are being handled by, it's the same percentage as with
within like 2 percentage points. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so they were not very receptive to the argument that staff is handling too many things. And that was basically what we had talked about. And they made it very clear that if we have future issues with them or future concerns, to just call them up and talk to them.
We also discussed the application on 3 East 89th Street, the house that's being converted to an art gallery, and the rooftop extension, which in the initial approval wasn't part of the initial approval. And then, of course, it came back as a public hearing instead of a public meeting, which means there's no public input except for letters. And, you know, they really were not that receptive on that.
No, they weren't. In fact, they rejected our efforts to communicate with them and to say that it should come back to the board. They said it was not a change that merited coming back to the board. And then we had that I'd like to think of it as a little bit snarky response from the owner, that she didn't appear and sent a representative in her place, that everything was fine. But we disagreed with that. And that was another instance of how the community board is not necessarily given enough recognition or I guess advisory authority with the Landmarks Preservation Commission. There have been other issues as well, but that's really what my notes pretty much dealt with. Because I thought
the reality, Alita, is that Sarah Carroll gave nothing. She gave nothing. In a very nice way, she said, everything we're doing right. And,
right, which is
we're not
I
looking
think,
to have you change anything.
no.
Yeah.
No, it was very nice that they had the meeting with us, but basically I think it was to maybe just say that we're here if you need us, but we're not going to do anything any differently, except maybe for, and even then the initial, I guess, reaction to 62nd Street was about,
Rita, she even went through the regulations with us so that she was clear with us. This is the way it is. Yes, and on individual things, you're right. I mean, she didn't give on anything, individual or general.
It was more of a public relations gesture, but worth doing, I think, at the end of the
Yeah,
day.
I
because
think it
we
was
did
worth
sit
doing.
down. Yeah.
And
And
we're-
she knows we are watchdogs on the Upper East Side. I mean, that was a message that really got across. That even if they aren't going to bend for us, that they know we're looking at them all the time.
well, maybe on important, I mean, they're all important, so I don't mean it like that, but maybe there are times when it would be appropriate to take her up on her offer and call when there's an issue. But these are things that we're not the only board in Manhattan that brings up the staff level approvals. And I told her that we are not seeing the same level of applications, and other boards have talked about that as well, that just too many things are going to the staff. But she insisted that it was no different than it was. Other boards have issues with the same kinds of concerns that we have, too many approvals of things like rooftop additions or, so we're not the only ones, but,
Well, I wonder, is there a way to track them? I don't know, to track the number of actual staff level approvals in our district.
Well,
I
they
don't-
did. Oh, sorry, Jane.
No,
They did
go
show
ahead.
us the number of applications they received year over year. And if I recall, and it has been a while and I apologize, the number has actually gone down, the number of applications that they received generally, if I remember seeing it. But we could also ask for that. I know that they would share that slide with us, because they did have a slide with like, this is how many applications we had overall this year, and then the next year, then the next year. And, they were trying to show that the percentage was always within the same percentage, even as the number went down.
But do we know how many applications there are that get submitted that then get approved at the staff level?
no, and that seems like a good point, that's something that we should find out, because that would give the evidence about how much is going to staff if we knew how many applications they get and how many overall applications are going to the commissioners.
I thought they had that slide, but maybe not just for CB8, but I thought they had that slide overall.
Well, that would be worth seeing if they do. So maybe you can ask for it.
Happily.
I mean, I talked about the window. I don't know if you remember, Jane, because you were particularly fond of the building in the 90s, I think near the.
Oh, that's the J. McLaughlin store.
Yes.
Where they did a very that modern second floor was approved at the staff level.
Yes.
Yeah, and that, I don't know how that happened, and I think we wrote a letter about that, didn't we?
We did.
Yeah.
Because they gave us the paint color to approve, and then they took that away too.
Yeah. I mean, that was, to me, a really egregious example, but I don't know, we're now in the time of COVID. Anyway, I think we should just continue to be harpies down there at the commission.
Well, the city will come back and businesses will be there. And we saw the really strong improvement, I think, on that building on Lexington where we objected to the windows. Remember, they took all the multi-pane windows.
Oh,
and
yes, that was the 70s.
And then they came back with something much better. So I think, if you don't mind my saying so, that we do need to continue to be active and ask for the very best that they can do.
I think we need to be active, despite the fact that Sarah Carroll didn't give an inch. I think the reality is she's on notice.
Yes.
And, I think she will therefore be a little bit more sensitive. But number two, I think that a lot of the presenters to our committee and to the board have the feeling that we maybe have a little bit more power than we really do. I have the sense that some of the applicants who are very familiar with the process and know that very often the committee and the board are overruled, that they just go their merry way. And they've been talking with the Landmarks Preservation Commission at a senior level, and they think they've got it won. They're not about to accommodate us, but others are ready to accommodate us. And I think there are others who, whatever their experience level, when they know they've done a lousy job, as we pointed out to them, they're willing to come back because they recognize that they haven't done the right job. So I think it's a mixed bag, but I think at least Sarah Carroll's on notice. And I think when there are issues where we feel really strongly, I think we need to maybe make more of it than just the resolution. Maybe it needs a follow-up that says, well, here's the unanimous resolution, but you have to understand that there's more to it than just the votes.
Well, I think that's a good idea to send a follow-up letter after the commission makes its decision. In closing our resolution with a cover letter, you know, I think that's a good idea, David. It's
What
more work
about
for.
what about before they make their decision,
Yeah,
so they
before
they make-
understand?
You mean to send a cover letter with the resolution?
And send the resolution, and I think that if the resolution is just numbers, the fact that it's unanimous says that we voted on it unanimously. But if there is a great deal of passion involved, maybe a cover letter that points out just how passionately the board was and the public was in the board meeting about this particular situation. It's one thing to look at numbers. It's another thing to feel some of the emotion that's involved.
Well, I agree with you, David. I was thinking that it's tough though, you know. Who goes down to the to give our testimony?
I have
Uh-huh.
on when it's an important topic, I think, or when we're particularly concerned that they won't go the way that we went, like the Hotel Wales, for instance, that rooftop addition, possibly the one on 96th and Park, that building on the southeast corner, and other ones as well. I've gone down there, but I went down there on the rules amendment, and that's what we asked about, which was why that we needed. It wasn't just that there were staff level approvals, but that we needed more community input for staff level approvals. And that was the reason that the first iteration of rule amendments were not accepted, was because there was such a community outcry. The second ones were supposed to accommodate public interest, but there doesn't seem to be a space for it. So we made that point.
Well, here's another thing that we don't or at least I don't know, if we as the community board vote one way and this LPC votes another way, do we get that information? Like, do we know exactly? I mean, we know for the Frick, or we know for the Hotel Wales or whatever, but for the other lesser issues that we care about, do we get a summary sheet? We don't really. And
No.
keep track statistically, and then we could write a letter once a year to the commission that says the commission voted this way on X, Y, and Z, but the board position was different and we represent the community. And
And if you remember, a number of years ago, we had an intern, Max, and he did
who did
he
that
did a
for
5-year study, and he found out that the Landmarks Preservation Commission and the board were in sync with about 85% of the applications.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Which wasn't bad. I think it may have been I think he was in the 83 to 87% range.
Wow.
The idea being that we were reasonably in sync, but sometimes they made adjustments.
Well, that's a pretty good percentage.
Well, yeah, but it's the 15% that they don't approve. That's the mistakes
Right,
that will live forever.
I mean,
That's
where
right,
they
and the
approve and
15
we don't want them to approve.
Sorry,
Well-
David and Jane,
Jane?
Michelle and Elizabeth have had their hands up. I don't know.
Oh,
if you-
sorry.
And then Christina, please.
Yes.
Thank you.
Me? Michelle, unmute yourself.
Yeah, yes,
I-
I have it. Yeah, no, what I was going to say is what precipitated all this and trying to get to see them and have an appointment with them is because of the couple of egregious mistakes we felt that they made. And in our original letter to them, we gave them those addresses. And we told them that had this come before us, we would never have approved it. It was windows. And we also made the point that in the past, such a thing would have come before us. So she's got the stats and she could tell us 2% or it's all the same or whatever. But in our anecdotal experience, it really isn't the same. So for me, the issue is to get notice of what's coming to the staff prior to the staff making a decision. Is there a way we can ask the commission to notify CB8? If other boards don't request this, then it won't be a massive undertaking. But if they have something coming before them, that we ask that our office be notified. And then we can look at the plans and then we could get ahead of it. We can write about it before the staff sees it because
They do send
Michelle,
those.
yeah, we do receive that
but we
once a
don't
month,
hear it.
and it's also on the LPC's website, but it's just sent in a giant spreadsheet.
Oh, so is there a way we can isolate it and get it to us? I guess it doesn't always coincide with our landmarks meeting, with our committee meeting. But if we could at least get it and circulate some kind of a heads up, because frankly, after the staff level approves it, you can't take anything away. Our letter could show our outrage, but the practical result of that is not going to change anything. The staff is not going to pull back on their decision because they got a letter from us after the fact. So I think if we get that information monthly, we have to maybe figure out a little internal routine that we have in order to give everybody a heads up, look at the plans, feed some commentary to Jane and David. Does that, and then let them write and how we feel about it. I don't know what this does with our sunshine laws. I mean, do we then have to request that they come to us, or can we offer an opinion if we're meeting in that way via email? I don't know what that has to do, with the open meetings rule and all that kind of thing. But it just seems to me that if we have the information, I thought we didn't even get it, but now I'm happy to say we get it. So now I think we have to figure out what to do with it.
If I could just interject, we can't have meetings by email. That is a violation of the open meetings law.
Yeah, that's what I'm sort of thinking. But is there a way that it won't come up that often? Is there a way we can, if we get such information, that we can call a meeting with that one agenda item? I don't think it's going to be dozens every month. If it happens, once or twice every couple of months, I think that's something we can handle. I think we should, if that's what, if we're asking them. They're not, I had spoken to Sarah Carroll at HDC's anniversary party, and I had a one-on-one conversation about this and expressed to her that I really don't understand why things that are approved at the staff level, since they're meeting multiple times with the applicant anyway, why it can't come to the board. I couldn't figure out, and I asked her, what was extra work about that on her part or anything like that. She didn't have a satisfactory answer. She was very nice and very responsive, so she knows how we feel about it, but she didn't offer anything practical. But okay. I think we should do that. I think that if we get the info, that we should have an interim meeting to discuss that one property. It doesn't have to be a long meeting. At least that would really show her that we're interested, that we're really following it, and we picked this up and now we're writing. I think that would be the way to go.
So
let me know when you're ready to move on to other people.
Yeah, I'm done. I'm done.
Okay. Elizabeth and then Christina.
Okay. I don't think that there's anything that require, if we see an application that looks substantial, I don't think there's anything in the sunshine laws that require us to inquire about it and ask if we should see it. The thing that I wanted to bring up is the terribly low standards that applied, and I brought up the two Ogden Codman buildings on my block on 95th Street between 5th and Madison, that about 6 years ago, the applicant wanted a canopy. It came to us, it came to the commission. It was a perfectly terrible idea. We turned it down. The commission turned it down, that a canopy was inappropriate. A building, the other Codman, or one of there are three on the block, the other Codman building, I woke up one day and there was a canopy. And the rationale that we were given after our meeting and that we were sent around to everybody really was that before designation, it had a canopy. It did not have a canopy even at the time of designation. But the canopy, an inappropriate canopy prior to designation, gave the precedent for staff level to approve this inappropriate canopy when the whole commission had disapproved one years ago. So I think that the precedent or the standard that anything that existed prior to designation creates a precedent to put up purple front doors with orange polka dots. For all we know, I think that is the lowest standard I've ever heard of.
Yeah.
And single pane tilt and turn windows existed all over these pre-designated buildings. We get those. I think that standard scared me to death, and I don't know how we deal with it, but that was the worst. The standard was so horrible.
Christina, if Elizabeth is done.
Yeah, no. Well, I agree with Elizabeth on that canopy. I remember it well. And that simply fell through the cracks, Elizabeth, and shouldn't have happened. I guess, was Tierney the chair then? I can't remember. Anyway, I do want to make a comment, a couple of things. That Sarah Carroll, how fortunate we are, and I told the mayor personally at Gracie Mansion one evening of his appointment of Sarah, because she has the most experience and the most competent landmark commissioner we've ever had in the time I've served on the board and the time I was chair, 15 years of the Landmarks Foundation. And, you know, how lucky we are, and I think we should keep that in mind. And that we want to make sure our voice is heard and that we don't overreach. I mean, we are not the commissioners. Even if we'd like to be, we are not. And we are very good stewards of this most important landmark community in the city. And they know that we have the most and the most important landmarks in the committee. I always used to say that to Bob Tierney. When I spoke, I would say it from the podium. And I've said it to Sarah as well. And so, but we don't want to overreach. And because then we don't have as strong a voice if we do that. And we have to keep in mind that Sarah is running an agency, a very important one, completely online. And, you know, that I had a long chat yesterday with Marjorie Perlmutter, head of the BSA. It is not an easy task for these people to run an agency virtually, successfully. And the architects that I've spoken to, while they miss seeing the commissioners face to face, they are very pleased of how it's going. And so I think this is all just, we have to keep, we have to keep this in mind. We're in a difficult time. They're doing an outstanding job. She's the most experienced commissioner that we've had in the last 25 years. And so, let's keep it balanced so that we don't lose our important voice. Thank you.
I'd like to quickly echo what Christina said, because despite anything else I've said tonight about how tough Sarah Carroll was in that meeting, that doesn't mean that she's not the best landmarks commissioner we've had in a long time, because I've dealt with Sarah as an architect many, many times, and I've dealt with Tierney and so on down the line. And yes, we are fortunate we have Sarah. And the reality is that she has no choice but, I think, to take the stand that she did with us. That doesn't mean she's not on notice, but it was important that we met with her. But it's also important that we do understand just how good she is, because she really is good at it. The other thing is the practicality. The people who do the reviews for certificates of no effect, there are rules and regulations and precedents that they go with. And they're not always perfect about it. But the whole point is that if it's a certificate of appropriateness, it goes to the commissioners for the kind of major judgment calls that are required. If there's just not enough time for the commissioners to look at everything. Therefore, there's a clear separation, sometimes not so clear, about what does go, certificate of no effect, to the staff level. So if we're going to try to influence something that happens at staff level, then I think we have to have a very, very good reason to want to do it. Number one, namely, we think it does require a different kind of judgment level and than staff level should be making. Or number two, it is such an important building that whatever it is, that's going to have a major visual effect on it. Even if it is something that can be done as a certificate of no effect, maybe it should rise to a certificate of appropriateness level. In any event, all I'm saying is that I think we have to tread carefully, because the commission is set up to make judgments and decisions in relation to the level of change that is being suggested with respect to the applications.
In all 5 boroughs, it's not just us.
Well, Christina, I appreciate what you're saying. I appreciate what David is saying. Nobody's calling into question Ms. Carroll's professionalism always with the community, with city government, with other agencies, it's a political job and she knows it, and she has a huge agency to run. But that doesn't mean that we abdicate any responsibility at all as the watchdog for the beautiful neighborhoods that we live in on the Upper East Side. So I would take a stronger line, respecting her always. But if we are in disagreement, there's nothing wrong with raising our voice about it.
Jane, I agree with that. I didn't want you to think I
wasn't my point.
But I disagreed with that. And I don't think Christina disagrees with that
No,
either.
that wasn't my
Words
point,
in her
Jane.
mouth.
Well, Christina, what is your point?
No, I mean, I'm a stalwart of this community. I've lived in Carnegie Hill 45 years. But, I voted with the way the commission voted on the Hotel Wales. And I walk by it every single day. And the commission agreed with how I felt. And the community did not. I mean, and I've been a part of this community longer than people who voted for the Wales. So, there's different passions, right? And so, we respect different viewpoints. But of course, we're going to be strong stewards for this precious landmarks on the Upper East Side. We have the most historic districts. We have everything. And I think they appreciate that we do watch it.
Well, I want to mention also, Sarah talked about expanding landmarks and bringing it into other boroughs in different kinds of communities that previously have not had landmarked buildings, because with the feeling that if communities of people of color or immigrant communities see landmarks in their own areas, that they will it will I guess, elevate the nature of landmarks, the appreciation of landmarks, the entire city being behind designations and preservation, and that it's important for the inclusion of certain communities that have not otherwise been as included as areas in the city, in the landmarks area, never in the landmarks umbrella, I guess. Nevertheless, it's hard to comment on items going to staff without knowing what those items are, as Michelle pointed out. And we did there was a very large voice to get community input into staff level approvals. So writing a letter, whether it's something that rises to the status of the building of 3 East 89th Street, or something far less significant, or noteworthy buildings, are it should be part of what they consider, given that was supposed to be included in the new rules, was a way for communities to be involved. I'm not sure that it's necessary to take your time or the committee's time in doing that, but it's supposed to exist as a way to maintain the stewardship and to review what's going on and to be able to have input into the sometimes quite large decisions that staff is making. So the first step would seem to be to find out what they're doing and have a method for the board, or this committee rather, to be able to review it, because we can't do it by email. Knowing about it is not sending around information from the Landmarks Commission is not a violation of, as far as I know, of the open meetings law, but deciding whether to, how the committee feels about something, I think from what I've learned, would be.
You can set an agenda through email. You cannot decide on an agenda item.
On how to vote for an agenda item, yeah. But the first step would be to find out what's its staff.
Sherry has her hand up. You're muted, Sherry.
I make determinations in open public meetings law all the time. You can certainly distribute the material, but you can't have a meeting. In other words, you can't send emails back and forth where you're discussing it. That becomes a meeting. But you certainly can distribute any material that needs to be evaluated, and then have an actual meeting where you can discuss it. That's not a problem at all.
Yeah, but people, once they get it, start discussing it back and forth by email.
Well, they can't do that.
Well, they do it. So,
well,
that's the problem.
You need, that's when an attorney tells the group that is not permitted. You cannot do that. That is in violation of the open meetings law.
But it's never been an issue with the applicants that come before the Landmarks Committee. We have the materials, we look at them. There's never been an issue of improper correspondence among committee members. And I think getting the material and having a discussion of should this go on the agenda maybe is not a violation as much as what do we, it depends on the broadness of what Will said. And I don't know, we could certainly confer with the borough president's office on that, but deciding whether something is what the response should be would be. But we're not there yet, because we don't have a way, or we don't have an efficient way of finding out what those items are. And even if we find out that they're looking at a window on Madison Avenue, where are the plans? Is it public if they're just at staff level? I don't know that, and I'm sorry.
Plans are not public. It's just the application description, I believe. Anthony probably knows more than I do. He does. He's nodding his head. Yes, he does, but he's muted.
Yes. I think it's easy to get a description of what the application is. It's a lot more complicated to try and get. The only things I think that are easily available, and maybe are those presentation materials that go before the actual commissioners.
So we need, if we're going to weigh in, or I mean, in terms of thinking about process, and maybe we could email about process, it's important to have a timeline or know when things come and how to see them as best we can.
So
Jane
you
and-
guys,
Just for the
So say,
record, if I can intercede for 1 second,
Mm-hmm.
for 1 month, my internet was fine after a month ago, but it seems that my internet is becoming very unstable again. I've lost half of the conversation in the last 10 or 15 minutes. So if I disappear, you'll know why, and I'll try to get it fixed again for Wednesday night. But I'm having a very big problem again.
And Jane, can we make sure for our own process, this is Christina again, that we ask questions that are within our purview and not outside the purview of landmarks?
Are you discussing the wall that was to be in
Yes.
between the? Well, it's tricky on Zoom. And we have an
Yeah, I was
election
discussing.
up, and we have a big election on Wednesday night, and I wasn't about to interfere with anyone's comments tonight.
So my hand is, I was just going to say, if I can I be heard?
yes.
Yeah. If something is going to go before the commission, we don't have a problem, because then it automatically, we know about it because it comes to us first. So that's not the issue. The issue is the stuff that's going to be presented at the staff level. So now it's good we found out that all we get is recognition of what the item is, that we don't see plans. But if in the description it says replacing a bay window with 1/1, you know what I mean? If the plan is descriptive enough and we see that in advance, then I guess we can ask for the plans. Otherwise the plans, if it's going in front of the commissioners, the plans come out the Friday before the Tuesday meeting. That's not enough time for us anyway, but it's irrelevant because we get that information. It's the stuff that's going to the staff that we're trying to get a hold of. So I guess step number 1, I would suggest that we just try to follow what's coming, that listing that we'll refer to that comes in, that if we see if Will could send out the addresses to the whole committee when it comes out, and then we can look at the descriptions and decide whether or not the co-chairs can decide whether or not we want to look into it further. Hopefully the description is enough to at least give us that much guidance. If it isn't, and we're piqued in some way, we can request more information.
In our experience, just so you know, when we do certificates of no effect, primarily we're sending in the drawings. So whatever they use to describe the drawings may or may not be the whole gist of what we're putting in. So when we put in for a certificate of no effect, it's based upon the fact that it doesn't require a certificate of appropriateness. But knowing what our firm is putting in typically, and it's probably no different than what most firms do, it tends to be a different level of presentation quality than what has to be done for a certificate of appropriateness. It can actually be a set of construction documents which can be read by the reviewers because they're trained to do that. So I think it's going to be very difficult. I'm not saying we shouldn't try to understand what's happening through
We lost
sense of what some of, well, to go backwards, based upon the kinds of drawings that I know are typical for certificates of no effect, it's going to be very hard to find out what the true scope of what that certificate of no effect is about. So I'm not saying we shouldn't try to find out, but I'm saying it's a lot different than looking at the presentation drawings for a certificate of appropriateness, because they're very often done at a different level. They're done sometimes just at a construction documents level. And sometimes it may be done as what I call a feasibility study to see when we go to landmarks, whether it requires a certificate of no effect or a certificate of appropriateness. But once it's deemed to be a certificate of no effect, it doesn't require the same level.
David and Jane, David actually just
Read and reviewed by somebody who's familiar with reading drawings.
Well, David, I don't know. What do you think the next step should be? Or Michelle? I don't think
I think we should give it a try.
okay. So
I
who's
think
going
if we
to track?
knew, I think, I'm sorry to interrupt, Jen. I just think if we knew that what buildings were involved, even if the descriptions were not very good, we would know which are perhaps of the more.
Right, which would be more pressing to deal with.
Figure
So
out.
why don't we give it a try and work out a little system for ourselves, see how it plays out over the next couple of months.
Would you guys like to see what we receive? I have it pulled
Sure.
up if you want to see it.
Oh,
Jane?
sure.
Afraid so.
Okay. So we receive a usually 15 to 20 page document that'll give us everything that's in a course of a month. It'll show us the permits that were issued, so you can click on these PDFs and you'll just see the permit. It doesn't show you the descriptions or the drawings. It just shows you the permit that they issue. I'm sure most of you are familiar with that. So you'll see, there's a bunch of those: certificate of no effect, authorization to proceed, et cetera, et cetera.
When they file for the certificate of no effect, is that published?
So we'll scroll down. You see filed applications down further, and so you can go through and you see it's under review, and it just says miscellaneous amendment, certificate of no effect, a work type, interior alterations, work type. So you would see the address, which historic district it's in, what sort of approval they're looking for. And then we can scroll down and you see these are all of the applications that they currently have before it that are still under review.
Did you notice if 1025 Park is on this?
No.
So I have a question, if I may. When do you get this? Because in order for us to have any impact at all, we'd have to get this, have you or Max or somebody go through it and pull out. Well, you get it, I guess, and figure out.
Well, we can share it with everybody, but we receive it. This one was received on November the 4th. And I don't want to throw anyone under the bus here, but I do forward it to you, Alita, Jane, and David.
Yes, I see it. I do see it, but
I see that too, and I've looked through it, but I'm looking at this, for instance, filed on October 14th, 20 East 69th Street for telecommunications equipment. And we know it says nothing about it, or the next one, 1024 Lexington, restoration and other facade work, roof work. There's nothing, additions and new construction for 870 Madison. There is so little detail for some of these things that how could we, and these were all filed in mid-October.
Well, they would be also under review for if they need, and correct me if I'm wrong, folks who've done this on the architect side, it's also under review to see if it needs a public hearing as well, right, Anthony?
Yes.
So we don't know what they're really, so maybe the blank ones are where it's under review for whether it needs a public hearing and where it says it's the certificate of no effect. And then if they disagree with that, if it says under review, even if they disagree with the owner designates it as whether that's what they're looking for, or does Landmarks designate it?
Generally speaking.
The architect.
Generally speaking, based upon the scope of what you are proposing, whether it's a certificate of no effect or a certificate of appropriateness. Sometimes there are some marginal conditions where it might be under review or under discussion as to which way to go. And sometimes you get a hybrid, and we've seen a lot of hybrids. And the hybrids are, 70% of this application was approved as a certificate of no effect, or it's being approved as a certificate of no effect. And you're going to rule on the other 30% in terms of the resolution that you come up with. Or you'll make a recommendation on the 30% that's a certificate of appropriateness. And I think when you see the hybrids that have been coming through to us, you get a pretty good idea of what most of the certificates of no effect are all about.
Are we done with this? Are you going to take it off the screen?
I think so. I think we need to figure out what a definite next step is and go from there. It seems like we're maybe a letter to Landmarks asking if we can have access to projects that they're reviewing at the staff level. I don't know. Maybe we should just think about this until next month.
Well, it would follow with the meeting that we had, Jane, where we asked for more input into staff level decisions to ask for more information about the staff level decisions.
Well, that would, how about a letter from the board?
Yeah, yeah. I could write one.
Thank you, Alita, for volunteering. I appreciate it. No, I have the resolution to write up. We have a big meeting on Wednesday night, as we all know.
I like writing the letters, so I don't object.
Well, maybe we should circulate a draft to all the committee members and they could have some input.
I always do. I never send anything out without a whole bunch of eyes on it.
Just saying that for the record, because I'm assuming we're still being recorded.
Yes, we are.
We know you do your best work at 1 a.m. in the morning.
That's early. So do we want that by Wednesday?
No.
So that we can go to the board with it?
No.
Which is just what they'll like to hear, I'm sure.
Wednesday is going to be a long meeting, Alita. I think we should just, wait till December or something. And I don't even know whether it has to go to the board for approval.
I don't think that kind of letter doesn't have to go to the board. You're just asking for additional information.
Exactly.
I think as soon as you can get to it, as soon as you can do it in your schedule, get it out. I don't think it needs to go to the board.
Well, it'll go to you guys.
Okay, that's great.
So, thank you, Alita. Is there a move to adjourn? Everybody wants to stay on.
Anthony raised his hand.
Thank you, Anthony. Is there a second?
You're quite welcome.
Second.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, we'll see everybody on
Good night.
Wednesday. Will,
Yes,
I won't
indeed.
get my resolution in until tomorrow afternoon, just so you know.
Okay. Tomorrow afternoon
James,
is fine.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Zoning